Testing, 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 1, 2, 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 testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Testing 1, 2. We got audio. Okay, who's going to take care of the mics today? One on each side. Do I have any volunteers? Where's Robert? Oh, couldn't see you. Okay, Robert. If anybody can help with the microphone on the other side, it would help. They're both turned off.
Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's working. Boom, 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 boom. You got a front yard about the size of this, half of this table. You know what I'm talking about. We said, you want to put a sign out, put it inside. Yours. We'll let you put it. And, yeah. Well, I want to put it out so people can see it. You put it out for where people can see it. I'll put it in the trash. You shouldn't do that. That's my right to do it.
Well, I saw a year or two ago a city truck driving along one of the streets like Briar Rose or Briar Forest, you know, and on city right away, they pick them up.
Real estate signs that are out on the wrong side of the sidewalk, there's a game. They cost the realtors $150. Metal signs, you know, that are this by this. Stuck in the metal.
I also included in my email to her that how come for the last 6 months there has been no minutes of any meeting posted. 6 months. They don't want anybody to know what's going on.
You figured that out.
In that street sidewalk thing, I've seen the truck driving up and down our streets now, getting contracts to fix the sidewalk. And if they don't fix them by June of next year, the management company said that we will send you demand letter.
You ought to get that.
Yeah, I know.
And you know, just slap these people down.
Like, you know, I was thinking, I said, well, if we have to replace the sidewalk in front of our house that's on city property, and they claim that because we installed the sidewalk,
You didn't.
our contractor.
The builder installed the contract and he seeded it.
Yeah, well, in fact, it wasn't the builder, it was the development company. You know, does that mean that the street in front of our house that's on city property, we have to repair? That's the same, right? It's the same logic.
Well, you guys take care of the median. Why not?
Oh, boy, well, we don't have to because on Briar Forest, which is north of us, the HOAs get away with that. The city has
outside the sidewalk, city owned.
Yeah, yeah, but they maintain that Esplanade, or that called,
Esplanade Street.
in the middle of the street. But we still spend this $30,000 or $40,000 to maintain the one on Briar, on Woodland Park. And the homeowner association across the street from us, who used to help us, said that's bullshit, we're not doing it.
They read the rules. And their lawyer told them bullshit. Why should they? Well, why should they? They had trouble, where I live, they still have alleyways in some of the places in the inner part of the city. And the city was glad sending out tickets for people to clean up the alleyway. Finally, they pissed off the lawyer. Went back and took it, went to the, one of the circuit courts. Basically said the city property is city operation.
Well, that happened on Willcrest, on the south side of our last homeowners. There's a fence and there's an alleyway and there's a bunch of businesses and Westheimer. And these people were dumping all this crap over there, okay? And the homeowner association wanted the homeowners to get rid of that crap. They're the same thing.
You guys have a homeowners association which thinks they're God. And then they're paying to run and lining their own pockets, obviously.
Yeah. But
And
they didn't with these signs. They didn't tell anybody to take the sign down.
somebody knows somebody.
Yeah. Right.
And they were in particular, they were either red or blue, and somebody liked red or blue.
Yeah.
And that's why they get away with it.
Well, the other homeowners, I think I mentioned it before, Beanie, who was in charge of the HOA, homeowner association that he has helped throughout the United States with their management.
Perry and Company, Perry the developer, he has a subdivision. He runs thousands of homeowners associations. He is the man.
That was Bob Perry did that.
He's not doing it himself. Not losing any money on it either. You have a good Thanksgiving? All right. Honey turkey, full turkey? Huh? Oh, wow. I hope everything went well.
Took all of 5 minutes with the duck. Nothing funded.
What kind of computer was this?
A nook.
Oh, that's nothing then. You just have to assemble two or
The
three
biggest
pieces.
thing was getting the screws loose from the factory where they were torqued.
I hope they put it in an unconspicuous spot, a non-conspicuous spot. Nukes are very easy to steal. They're worth stealing. They're worth stealing.
Or it's going to be on the back of a mountain.
Then they they get the monitor too. That's a deal.
At this point in time, using all the play is up to 5.8%.
Pull up a chair. No, you can still sit for a minute.
October, almost 2 months. Going in on
So how's the
October
garden
3rd.
going?
Do a bunch of stuff, and one of the things is
I would
to
have
get
been
it
better
done.
off to wait 2 weeks.
Two sheds that are there now, and I wanted the garage, but we didn't get to it. Organized so that I have the right stuff in the right place.
Dan.
Just a, there's a bunch of stuff out there, everything in there.
Welcome to the club, honey.
So, you know, that worked out real
I
well.
lost a cell phone last week. I was in some other house.
I've got a mess, the wireless mess is in the house, I think. And I
I
think
know
one
the phone is because let me tell you, I was getting ready to go to church with my kids. 5 o'clock, trying to get the phone to work. The security code squares. Got frustrated. Put it back in the square. Went to church. Found out I fixed it. I gotta turn the phone. Phone's not with me. I said, oh, I left it on the kitchen counter. I get back an hour later. I said, I'm gonna find that phone. So I got the other phone, regular landline. I can call you. Immediately it goes to voicemail. How are you? You can check it. I put it in airplane. I've been looking for a week. So I ordered another phone.
Oh, so it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 years old. It's a beautiful little little Samsung. And I never really learned how to use it or anything. Because it would help if I read the book.
Yeah. And if you fiddle with it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel it every day.
Okay, folks, what we're trying to do right now is to get a Google Chromecast device hooked up. So we're working on the phone right now. We've got the Google Chromecast on the screen. Once we get the phone, we're going to googlechromecast.com/setup, and then we're going to configure the device so that this phone will attach to that Google Chromecast. And we're going through a router. The key to this is a 2.4 gigahertz router. Now, there's 3 versions of the Google Chromecast. There's the original, there's the new version, and then there's a 4K version. Yeah, Google. It's Google Chromecast. Excuse me, it's chromecast.com/setup. Chromecast. Yeah, just chromecast.com. Chromecast.com. Chromecast.com slash setup. SET. UP. Now, enter. Okay, welcome. Let's get started. Got to have that. So we're downloading the app. I guess open it. We want to install it. That looks like what you had a while ago. 49%. So it's installing. Well, he's going to be once we get it attached. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, we're back where we were.
Discover. We didn't have that a while ago. Click on Discover. Hang on. I think it's Chromecast. All I see is Discover. Is there anything else under Discover? To access the device's location, we should have to say tap Allow, and then choose the Google Chromecast you want to set up. Tap Setup Continue, and I haven't seen anything for Setup Continue. Okay, we'll click on Discover. What's in the upper corner here? What do we have? That's what we want. I didn't see that in there. Jeez. Okay, setup. Chromecast found. Your temporary name is Chromecast 4240, which is correct. Connecting. Your mobile device will switch to a temporary Wi-Fi hotspot on your Chromecast. And at some point, we should have to plug in a code, which is the code we see on the screen. Yes, Q8, Q9. I see the code. Praise the Lord, I see the light. Send Google Cast device usage data crash reports. I guess that's fine. Click on Continue. And get a Wi-Fi password for this mobile device. We know what the password is. Well, if you get the password from this device, I don't know if it'll give it to us. We can try. Okay, enter the Wi-Fi password, which is the every good boy does fine. It may not seem like it, but we are making progress. Welcome everybody today to BuildOrBuy. We're doing something new. Of course, new does not always work like you want it the first time. So now we're going to see if this is going to connect. And I believe it is. Connecting Chromecast. Now the key to this is we're hooking up to a 2.4 gigahertz network. And it looks like we are connecting. Setting up your Chromecast. And what's the screen we've got up right now? It says Chromecast. Continue. Sign in for a better Google Chromecast experience. Connect. It's a streaming media device. It's a media player. What we're going to be able to do is to see what's on this. Yes, on this phone. Yeah, go ahead, learn how to cast. Cast whatever you'd like. We should see it up on the screen. That'll work. Tap the cast button. Yes. Cast to the Chromecast. And up on screen. Too loud? Okay. It's a little bit low, I think. Okay, he's turned it up. I can control the audio a little bit from here. Now what we're doing is for demonstration purposes only. Anybody that's watching this live as we broadcast, you will not hear the audio in the video. And we go back to the screen. We've done the tutorial. Okay. So now how about if we want to just show what's on the screen? Click in the upper right-hand corner. And if you want to cast that where the small moon rules, NASA, or that, you could click on it, and it's showing on screen right now. It's casting. That's casting. You're on this screen right here, the program screen, and that screen is what's up on the projector, and that's also the screen that people are seeing on the internet right now. And for what it's worth, we are streaming this week at 1080 resolution. This is the first week we've been able to do it. We did it the first week, but ever since then we've been doing it 720, but today we're doing 1080. Jack?
Is that tied to his device now, or can anybody cast to that at this point?
Well, right now it's tied to his device. You'd have to log into it.
So you have to effectively sync the Google Cast and the Chromecast and your device.
Right. Two devices are locked together. But the key is the router. You see, we have a wireless system up here at Fairhaven, but it's a little bit funny trying to get this to work. Somebody else has been wanting this to work, and I've been doing some reading and research on this, and the requirement is the 2.4 gigahertz. When we originally set up the Ubiquity Wireless, we had them separated, but then when we upgraded the network, we put them back together. So what I've got to do is go back in, upgrade the network again, and then separate them so that there'll be a 2.4 and a 5 gigahertz. Those that can see the 2.4, that's what you need to log into. Those that can see the 5, you can try and see what happens. But if the radios are separated, we're assured of a solid connection. So that's why I brought a separate router up here for this to do this today. And if anybody's got access to wireless, you'll see a D-Link 2.4 and a D-Link 5 gigahertz. Right now with Fairhaven, we have the Fairhaven UMC, which is primarily for the office staff, and then there's Fairhaven FH Guest for all the rest of us. So what we're going to do later is separate out that FH Guest, so there'll be an FH Guest 2.4 and an HH Guest 5. And these devices need to log into a 2.4 that ensures connectivity. Now there's three different classes of these devices that have been around. There's the original Google Chromecast, there's the new second generation Chromecast, which is what Bobby Wren has, and then there's the 4K version. The 4K version can log in to a 5 gigahertz connection, and this one theoretically is supposed to be able to. But to absolutely make sure you don't have any connectivity problems, log it into 2.4. Now keep in mind, 2.4 has greater range, but it doesn't have as much bandwidth. The 5 gigahertz has less range, but much greater bandwidth.
I noticed over the Black Friday weekend and Cyber Monday and so on that many places were touting a Chromecast for $25. I assume that's the simplest version.
That's the one.
I'll take 35.
In fact, I'll bring it up here on another screen. We'll take a look at it. And it was over the weekend. We can change screens. We'll go to there's a Google Chromecast for 35, and it was $25 over the holidays. And then there's the Google Chromecast Ultra for 69. That's the 4K version. It is recommended that if you're going to stream 4K to do it with a wired connection, but it can be done wirelessly. But this is the one that Bob has. And yes, you could have had one for $25. B&H had them. There's a link up here to several sites that have them. You can buy it direct. I believe Walmart, a couple other places had them. Everybody had them at the same price, $25. I got to tell you, this weekend I think has been the craziest for special offers and deals that I think I've ever seen, period. I couldn't believe the email that kept coming through. I thought Friday was busy. Friday didn't hold a candle to what came through on Monday. It was just bizarre. And there were some really good deals. And this little thing's not bigger than a button.
I saw a 60-inch TV for $500.
60-inch TV for $500. Doesn't that blow your mind? So if anybody's interested in this, we've talked about casting before, and think of this as another way to send something wirelessly, HDMI. This is another way not to use HDMI. Now, for the record, for what it's worth, there's several pieces of equipment involved in here to make this happen. We've got the cell phone in one end, and we've got the Google Chromecast on the other. Those are two devices. In the middle, though, is the router, which most everyone's going to have access to, 2.4 gigahertz. But for demonstration purposes, another device we have on here so we can get this up on the screen is we're using an HDMI splitter. That allows us to get this signal up so we can see what's here at Fairhaven. Because we're also going into converter to get into the switch to get up on the screen through the projector. And what's on the projector is also going out on YouTube Live right now. So whatever it takes to make it work, that's what we try to do. And the issue is going to become more interesting because we're going from HDMI 1.4 to HDMI 2.2. And there's going to be a handshake issue with people who have 4K devices. You may have a 4K TV. You buy a 4K streaming device, and they may not handshake. So then you may have to get something like Monoprice sells a Blackbird device that will convert that handshake so that those two 4K devices will talk to each other. So keep in mind, HDMI 1.4 and HDMI 2.2 are two different animals. But in the simplest terms, with the Google Chromecast for $35, which was $25 over the weekend, cell phone on one end, Google Chromecast on the other, router in between, and you may, depending on what you're doing, if it doesn't work, you may have to have a splitter. For example, the TV up here is a beautiful TV the church has, but it's about 4 years old. It may have to have a splitter for this communication to work because of the HDCP issue. And the key to that is if you have to have a splitter for this kind of device, you want HDMI 1.3B. HDMI 1.4 will not allow this to work. Dwayne.
I had a Chromecast, which I used to use all the time for Netflix, and I would just cast it from my iPhone to the TV. I don't understand why all this elaborate routers and all that stuff is needed to cast. What's going on? What's the purpose of it?
Well, You have a smart TV.
It's not, I mean, not really.
How old is the TV? A year old?
No, it's probably
2 years old?
9.
9 years old?
Yeah. I mean, it did have 2 or 3 no, it didn't have any smart functions. I had to buy a Blu-ray, which had the smart function in it.
Okay.
So it is not a smart TV.
Okay, so your smart function was built into that. Your wireless was in your Blu-ray.
Yeah, but all you do is you plug the Chromecast into the TV and you just cast from the phone.
You didn't have to have,
I had a USB port on it, and I plugged the Chromecast into that. And then
what wireless were you connected through?
my home network. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
you were connected to your home router.
right.
Okay, your home router is your wireless.
Okay, I see what you're using the term, the router. Yeah, you're right. I'm using the home network, yes.
Well, your home network, you had a router.
Right.
So you had smart device on one end. In this case, it could be a computer or a cell phone. On the other end was Google Chromecast. But in between, you had your router, which was your home network.
Right.
Okay. The other equipment required is in case there's issues with HDCP, and also to get this signal up on this projector as one of the inputs on the switch.
Okay, got it.
So the only other equipment most people would have to have would be the router, which we've identified you had, possibly a splitter if you have HDCP issues. And the reason I mention this, there's other equipment we've tried to hook up to that TV that would or would not work because of that HDCP handshake. So that's the way we got around it. So I'm just saying, if you have that problem, that's how to do it. The other stuff that we're doing is applicable if Bob tried to hook up something to show, but for what Bobby Wren's going to do, all he needs is to be able to hook this device up to the TV, and it should work. But if it doesn't, he'll have to get a splitter, which Bob has. Already got him one. But it's got to be on 2.4 gigahertz. What channel do you have to be on? That I don't remember. Used to it was channel 3, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It shouldn't. On an HDMI input, you should be able to just select one of the inputs because you'll have like, I think 3 HDMI inputs. Pick one that's available. And if you connect that and you get a screen that says something about HDCP or it won't connect, then you've got to have that splitter in there. That way you're aware of it. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it used to work, but we haven't had time to get back to it. And I thought Tom was going to show this today, but Glenn ran into a tree and cut his face and cut his hand and bled like a stuck hog all up and down the hall. So therefore, since Glenn drives and Tom can't see, and I teased him about that coming in because I'm thinking, okay, Tom can't see. Glenn is the one that hit something, and he's going to drive. How's this going to work? I said, you need to go to ER to get that thing sewed up on your hand. He says, I'll do it when I get out to Kingwood. I'm thinking, okay, now you're driving. Tom can't drive. What if he keels over? He said, I'll be fine. And in the meantime, Ben went to the bathroom, and I mean, all 3 sinks had blood in them. There's blood all over the floor. I mean, you thought we'd had a mad dog in here chewing on him. I'm thinking, okay, now, where on earth did he run into a tree? I know the parking lot on this end. I know the parking lot on that end. And he said, well, when he went to go get a snack when he ran around the corner. I'm thinking, okay, I don't remember a tree hanging that low. But anyway, Glenn found it.
Was he walking?
Apparently he was walking and he was watching something else instead of what he was doing. So I hope they'll be okay driving going home. But that just kind of concerned me. The ladies from the church came down and said, one of your guys is bleeding. And my first thought was, is this from somebody's nose or from somebody's throat? Said he's in the bathroom, and I'm looking, following the blood, and I get in there and I said, who's bleeding? Glenn turns around and says, me. And I'm thinking, wow, what a mess. It's been an interesting day. So first we were going to do a Google Chromecast, and then we weren't. And then, Lord moves in mysterious ways. Bobby Wren shows up, and he says, how do you hook up a Google Chromecast? And I'm thinking, I can work with this. So everybody was willing, so we got to look at a Google Chromecast. So if anybody's interested, like I said, this thing is about as big as a minute, and it's a pretty neat device. It is a media player from which you can stream from your cell phone, from your cell phone or from your computer. And we're getting to where we're going to start seeing a whole lot more of this kind of stuff. When we originally got here, I had set up in the rack a row of splitters because I thought we'd be using all these media devices. I figured we'd have an Apple TV, we'd have one of the Google Chromecast, and that other media player, the Roku. So I had them all set up, ready to go. We haven't done squat with that for a year until all of a sudden today. So I want to make sure that now that we've done this and walked through the process, I've read about it, but I have never done it until today. So next time we do this, we can say, I think I know how that works. Let me walk you through the process. But I want to make sure that it works for everybody up here at Fairhaven. So thank you, Bobby, for being our guinea pig today. Has anybody got any questions about Google Chromecast? Okay. Can you give us a few minutes, or do you need to go right now? Okay. I'll unhook it in a couple of minutes. What I want to do is show you some of the stuff that's important to know about it. And on the settings, and I'm going to email this stuff to Bobby, I told him I would later, as a reminder, here's some help that tells you the specifics about what to look for. Use the required 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi bandwidth, not 5 gigahertz. Make sure your router's within 10 to 15 feet of your Chromecast, and enable universal plug and play. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about this. Typically, on a router, universal plug and play is the one thing you want to turn off, because that makes you accessible to somebody else on the internet that can hack your network. So this is something you always want to turn off. But using this streaming device, they say turn this on. If you're also using some of the security cameras, you have to have this turned on. Jack?
Cost aside, do we know enough about these gadgets yet to recommend one as being superior?
I guess it depends on what you want to do. For example, I have an Apple TV, which I think is okay. I have a Roku. I like the Roku. There's now a Roku 4. I want to upgrade and get a Roku 4. As far as the Google Chromecast, the purposes that I would recommend one to have at home might be different than the purposes I would recommend for here at BuildOrBuy. We need something here that if somebody says, I want to throw something up on the screen, to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's my primary interest. I can get almost anything into one of my gadgets.
Right. So
but I
from
need
that
something
standpoint,
as an interface to cast it to my ancient TV.
well, and see, this brings up an interesting point. What is it you want to show? If you want to look at a movie or you want to hear some audio, any one of them will do the job. But what if you want to actually see what's on the screen, everything that's on the screen? The simplest solution is probably the best solution. Now, I like the way this worked. It was fast. When we tried to cast through the Roku, it was somewhat quirky, real quirky. And I was not pleased at all with the way that worked. Supposedly, it's supposed to get better. But this technology, to do this on a computer, you've got to have the Chromecast browser. So whatever you see in the browser is what you're going to see. And the technology now with Chromecast, I think it's called Miracast, is built into Windows 4. So I don't know that I could comfortably say which one would be best for us up here. But we need to have access to one so we can do stuff like this. Like, say you got something on your phone, throw it up. Now, when we did it last time about a year ago, I think you, Jack, were doing some casting. I know Dwayne was doing some casting, logging into the device. I'm impressed with the way this worked. It was pretty fast.
Especially at the price point it's at, it seems like it would be
You know, it beats the britches off paying
not
$100.
a lot to lose.
I agree. And $25 would have been a real deal. Now, if I were to go buy one of these, if I wanted this at home, I'd want the 4K version. But up here, and for the kind of stuff we're going to do, that one that does 1080 would be just fine for $35. And if I'd had a lick of sense, I'd have probably bought one when I could have gotten it for $25. But I didn't have a lick of sense. I was doing other stuff. UPSs, $210 UPSs for like $125. That was a deal. Yes, ma'am. Can we get a mic on Mel, please? Robert's coming around. Whaley comes with a mic. Okay? Let the mic come around because I want everybody on the internet to hear what you're saying. I want them to hear your beautiful voice. There's other ways we could do audio. If we hung mics,
Mel,
then we'd hear everything everybody's saying. I don't think we want that. Yes, ma'am.
Gil, I just want to know, what is the
URL.
website that has that help forum on it?
If you'd like, I'll email it to you. But this router setting is the Chromecast help forum, and that's a long URL. That's a lot to type. It's a long URL. It's very long. Do you understand? Yeah, it would be easier for me to email it to you.
Okay, thanks.
In fact, do you want it right now?
go ahead. Hit her with it. Just send a link.
What's your email address, Mel?
What's your email address?
MELBAB.
B,
Two B's?
two B's.
Okay.
belly button, at earthlink.net.
As a rule, I only keep two email addresses up here, the one I'm sending to.
Gil,
Yes, ma'am.
also put it to Pat, P-A-T.
Hold on, hold on. I'll have to start keeping the database up here. Pat,
T-H-O-M,
T-H-O-M.
75,
Hang on, P-A-T-T-H-O-M 75
at att.net.
at att.net. Okay,
Thank you.
P-A-T-T-O-M, correct?
P-A-T-T-H-O-M.
H-O-M. P-A-T-T-H-O-M.
75.
P-A-T-T-H-O-M 75. All righty. And this message will be, what router settings do I need to set up Chromecast? Okay, ladies, it ought to be coming to you right now. But that little piece of information is good to know.
Zoom.
The 2.4 gigahertz is the key. And setting up. This is another document y'all may want. It's about choose your Chromecast device. So I'll send that to y'all as well. All I got to do is go pull up your address. Cut and paste, cut and paste. Love it. And I send myself a copy. And this document is Set Up Chromecast, Chromecast Help. Y'all got both of them. Okay, so that's two pieces of information. One, what router settings do I need to set up Chromecast? And two, setting up Chromecast, choose your device. And it'll show you there's a help screen here that goes through and shows the Google Chromecast first generation, and then Chromecast and Chromecast Ultra. Chromecast, the current generation, second generation, which is what Bobby Wren has, and the Ultra, meaning the 4K device. And it's pretty plain and simple. It tells you what to do, 1, 2, 3. Just follow the directions. Keep it simple. And then, of course, the other part is the actual device itself if you want to buy one. Now, if you'll notice also down here, it says on the specs, not only does this $35 device do 1080, but it's Wi-Fi only. If you buy the 4K version, it's Wi-Fi and wired. And although they recommend for that much
Wire. So much
information going through to be wired, yes, Jack?
Does that require a power source as well as a USB plug?
I think it takes power off of the device. USB will take 5 amp? Okay. USB can deliver 5 amps. Half an amp from the laptop? There's another page that talks about the full specs on this. All I wanted to do was bring up to show you the specifics. generality specifics, not actual spec specifics. Like that definition? Okay, so any questions about Google Chromecast as a media streaming device? I hope we'll be able to do more streaming stuff in the future. If this is the device that we need to go with, then we'll need to keep one handy for that. There was a need for it today. Bobby Wren had a need. There's another gentleman up here that had a need. But the key to making this work here at Fairhaven is you got to have a separate router to make it work because of the 2.4 gigahertz. Once I get those radios separated out again, then it'll work for anybody off this wireless network, because this wireless is wireless AC on the 5 gigahertz, AC 1200. On the 2.4 gigahertz, it's set up for wireless in, which is what this device can handle, which I think is what, 600? 300 or 600. Anyway, whatever the number is, it can do the wireless BG and N, but I have it set up for N. But I need to separate the radios out. So I've got to upgrade the network, Ubiquity, and I got to separate the radios. That'll take a separate visit to come up here and do that. Any more questions? Dwayne?
I love the network today. I'm on the guest network,
Yes.
110.
Well, we have upgraded the network, and I got a message this morning from Bob Luton, and because each week I test it, and I said, we still don't have the bandwidth that we were supposed to have increased to. And he said, long story short, I'll give you the details later, but he said it's supposed to be completed by 6:55 a.m. this morning, which apparently it is. We have increased upload speed and increased download speed. Our download speed is, as you just stated, supposed to be about 100 megabit. When I tested it, it was a little bit lower than that. Our upload speed is supposed to be 20 megabit. And we're using, I believe, 8. Yeah, we're using 8 megabit at 1080p 30. So anybody that wants to see this later, you'll be able to see this full motion video. And the interesting thing about streaming, you don't notice it so much when you're looking at a computer screen, but when you start looking at live video and see people, that's when the motion really, really matters, because you got to have all that bandwidth. So increased bandwidth. So we can thank Bob for that. I was beginning to wonder if Comcast was ever going to come through with that, and I think they kind of figured, who's going to ever notice? Who's going to ever check? We check. Which brings me to an interest in the last day or two. Did you check your bandwidth? At home, I had a 100 megabit connection. It went offline for about 45 minutes. By the time I monkeyed with stuff, when it came back, I checked it again. I had 75 megabit connection. So I was a little miffed over that. So I went through the rigmarole, talked to a couple of really nice folks, and I got to do what Joe has always talked about. I got to call customer retention. Because what I want to do is get my network speed back up, and I'm only interested in internet. Forget the other stuff. But while I was at it, and the reason I'm telling you this, Comcast makes it hard to find the deals that are available. You log into your account, they'll show you what they want you to see. I did a search, and I found some other options that I'm much, much more interested in, where I can get a 150 megabit connection for like $60. So I'm going to call customer retention tomorrow morning, and I'm going to say, let's see what we can do about this. I'm tired of paying $100. I like paying $60. This is the deal that you guys are offering. This is what I want. We'll see if they can come through.
Where's that offer?
That's interesting you mentioned that.
Interesting, you mentioned it.
Well, when I come across stuff like that I think we need, I always email it to myself and up here at the meeting, especially for things that we don't have time to get to right away. So, if somebody else wants to talk for a minute and give me a second to find it, I can
Everybody
definitely...
sign the sign-in sheet.
Thank you.
If you haven't, please do.
Joe, get your mic on. Thank you.
Are we going to meet the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's?
You're asking me to think, so I got to change gears.
Lou answered it. She said no.
We are going to be off 12/21 for Christmas. I don't know about you guys, but last week not being here, wow.
Felt good, didn't it?
Well, I worked like a Turk getting done what I did for today, so I needed it. And I'm going to take advantage of that time to come back up here and do what I need to do for Fairhaven. So we were not here 11/23. We won't be here 12/21. And 12/21 is right before Christmas. So we've got 2 weeks we'll be here, the 7th and the 14th. We'll be gone the 21st, and then we'll be back on the 28th and the 4th. Now, at some point, Ben's not going to be here. You won't be here the 28th and the 4th. Okay, well, that'll suck. And Lou is going to be gone in December. That's why we went ahead and sent that broadcast message out. But Lou's here today, so Lou will be back in January. So Philip will be here, hopefully. Hopefully. And Andrew will be here, hopefully. I appreciate it, guys. Anybody else that wants to help with all this stuff, it's all volunteer. I really appreciate the help. So it gives us an idea of what we've got looking forward to. I got to figure out a reason in January why we need a holiday, but that's a joke. I don't know if y'all have noticed, and I wasn't going to get into it, but we have a new interface for BuildOrBuy. As Jerry Burling has reminded me numerous times, and I agree with him 100%, Gil, you need to do something about that because it really sucks. I agree. Well, here's 2 weeks worth of, he put it a little bit nicer than that. I'm just cutting to the chase because I agreed with him. Here's 13 pages that took me 2 weeks to figure out. And I'm not 110% on what I've got, but I kind of like it. So if you go to the home page and click on home, it'll take you to the meeting. If you go back up from the home page and click on news from here, it'll tell you what's going on for the week. And I think what I'm going to start doing each week is taking the stuff where we have what I would call talking points for news that'll be on the index page that'll then go to a news page. But from there, I'm going to put it on another page, a third page, that'll be talking points for that week, for that Wednesday meeting.
Is our happy little keyboard tapping on himself gone forever then?
Not necessarily. Have you ever noticed our icon on that we have set up on, this is an interesting discussion. I'm trying to find a home for him to put him back. Do you remember the little icon we had when you bookmark BuildOrBuy, the favorite icon? Well, that's where I got the idea for that guy, because the icon that it's now up on YouTube is somewhat between those two. And the wallpaper art that we have that's up on YouTube is the inside guts of Jim Fallon's computer. Now, of course, this computer, this is Nick Streeter's computer, and I think this talks a lot to what we're talking about with the technology, because that is a 4K. So if you go to the index and you go to build specs and you click on build specs again, I got 3 classes up right now: build a desktop, buy a laptop, or upgrade. And if you're upgrading, you're probably upgrading Windows. Anybody still doing OS 2? Ben?
Gil, stop there. Just between there and your right, you'll be in camera.
Right there.
Yes. When you are talking over on the other camera, you're nowhere to be seen.
I'm kind of like Joe. I'm kind of like a ghost.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to the dry marker board because there's been too much I needed to do up here, and I just realized I didn't do everything I was supposed to. Whoops. Oh well, better late than never. The only full recording of this is the stream that's on YouTube right now. We also record sometimes into a camera, and usually we record into an SSD recorder. I just now realized I didn't have the SSD recorder going with all the smoke and mirrors, with the bleeding and the, wow. Hope Glenn's going to be okay, but my mind's been a little bit, lots of places. So going back to the website, on the desktop, if you click on build specs again, I've got 3 different classes on the build specs. Bang for the buck, the mid-range, and then the performance. Now, what I would call bang for the buck is based on chipset. And this brings us to the point that we're marking time in history right now with what's getting ready to happen. AMD is coming out with a new CPU. They're going to be talking about it in 2 weeks. You can log on and I can tell you how to get to it to listen to that event. Also that the new stuff's coming out from Intel next year, 2017. So this next year is going to be a whole new animal, a whole new game, a whole new chipset. Chipsets rule. So on the low end bang for the buck, we've got a system based on the AMD A88X chipset. That chipset video card is optional. In the middle, that's the AMD 990FX chipset. Robert Collier here today? Didn't make it. Okay. That's what Robert Collier has built, the one in the middle. That requires a video card. The first machine and the second machine, those are both AMD. But when you go to the performance machine right now, on the far end, that is Intel. Now, Ray Morris had called, and I haven't had a chance to call him back. His old computer petered out on him. He's kind of in the boat, kind of like Nick Streeter. He's going to have a new computer. But I think Ray's going to want a desktop. So I tried to talk to Ray about this, a couple of months ago when we were doing the stuff with Jim and with Bill. Oh, glad to see you, Bill. Glad you're back. How's the vertigo?
Getting better.
Good. Getting better is not as bad, or getting better is getting worse?
No, it's getting better.
Getting better. Good. I'm glad to hear that. There's something I would say, but since I'm on mic, I won't. Stable? Are any of us stable? I always say we either committed or we ought to be. On the performance end, it's based on the Intel Z170 chipset. Now, on that machine, Jim Fallon has built, and so has Bill, has built on that machine. That's going to change. If somebody wanted higher end performance than that, that's a tough call because I consider that high end performance bang for the buck. You could have used the X99 chipset, and there's an $1,800 processor you could put on it. But if you're going to spend that kind of money, I think you'd be better off jumping into a workstation. And if you want to look at workstations, I'd say go look at Box, B-O-X-X. But for a bang for the buck, high performance machine.
Maximum PC current issue has a performance one for only about $7,000 if anybody's interested.
$7,000.
Water cooled, 2 graphics cards, it's loaded.
Is this one of those little gold monkey that whistles Dixie?
Well, the water cooler alone is, excuse me,
Like $2,500?
about $1,100. It's build it yourself, as I'm understanding. I don't have an interest in water cooling, but it looks like they give you a list of parts and show you how they did it.
You know, it's
It's that
interesting.
X99 that you said.
Yeah, it's interesting. The X99, even though the chip is pin compatible to go on the Z170 chipset, theoretically it don't take a BIOS upgrade to make it happen. From what I've read, there's no intention to do that. Now, why would Intel come out with this new high-performance CPU and put it on a previous processor? Because if we're talking about technology, with all 3 of these machines, you get USB 3.1C. So that's one thing that's consistent. But as far as how much money you want to spend, bang for the buck, each one of these within its specification, in my opinion, is bang for the buck. On the low end, the AMD A88X, these 2 machines in this rack that we keep up here to help make the meeting happen are those machines. The one in the middle, the mid-range, that's the 2 machines I use at the house, and that's a machine I'm using to stream with. And streaming requirements to do what we're doing require on a class of like an i5 or an i7 type processor. And we're doing it 1080 with that mid-range machine. The only downside is to it, you got to buy a video card. Now, because I have some video cards, I didn't mind doing it. I did buy a card like you bought. In hindsight, being 2020, it's ironic. Instead of buying one of the new bang for the buck video cards or waiting, I'm glad we bought what was available because the new ones that came out, I'm not interested in frying a video card, and I'm not interested in frying a motherboard because of the video card using too much juice. So that's been a real squirrely sticking point with me. I hope that's going to change soon. But it's one of those things, you know, bleeding edge technology, let other people bleed. So if you don't have to buy a video card, I'm okay with that. But if you do have to buy a video card, then I consider other options. For example, The Intel Z170, even though it's the most performance, it's got video built on board. Now, for what Jim's doing, video card made sense. For what Bill's doing, Bill didn't need a video card. But Bill has the option that if he chooses more performance in the future, he can add a video card. And he can skip this first generation video cards that are getting kind of squirrely. So let me back out of this, unless you want me to go in further. If you click on these links, it'll take you into the chipsets. But if you just click on like bang for the buck, and this will give you an item list by list of the APU, which is a socket FM2+. So we've got CPU, motherboard, memory. Case, I don't have a case in there yet because that's kind of, Joe has the best luck with cases of anybody I've ever seen. I can spend hours looking at cases. But I got a power supply in here, the other options, the BD writer. And this brings me another interesting point about vendors. In the past, we've had links to 2 vendors. One could have been Newegg, the other could have been Amazon. But I got to share something with you folks if you buy a motherboard from somebody. When you buy a motherboard, it's in a box.
Gil?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm on the home page and I can't get to these pages. I don't know where to click.
Oh, okay. Up at the top, you see the index? See where it
Where?
says home?
Yes,
See the next link where it says build specs?
yes.
Click on build specs.
I get nothing. I just get the same page again.
Click on build spec again.
Okay? You had to do it twice, once and then twice?
Well, if you click on it once, you got to scroll down. If you click on it twice, it'll scroll down for you.
Ah, that was where I was having trouble. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. This picture, I just needed something quickly that I could show some cases for some interest. So that takes you down to those 3 options, desktop, laptop, and Windows. So under desktop, bang for the buck. This is the AMD A88X chipset. And this is a parts list. Of these 3 options, we've got item, brand, and model. And everything is in there to build a machine except for a case. We'll add something to it later and even some options. It's broken down. There's not a price list on there. I may do that later. I'm working with this new program. I'm not sure if I like it yet or not. The code is real clean, and I like the fact that it's big enough to see it. And this size is becoming even more important as we go to a 4K monitor to keep that in the back of my head. I'll go back, the mid-range. Now, this is a CPU with an AM3 Plus, an 8350. There are some faster CPUs that AMD has, one of them requiring a liquid cooler, but I don't see the performance worthy. And for the price, they've even got the same CPU, what they call a Wraith cooler. I can't see it's worth it for the money. That's bang for the buck, the 8350. And that's the G8990FX Gaming. That is the same motherboard that Robert Collier is in the process of replacing. He's getting rid of the UD5 for this board because he'll have access to the new technology. Again, the only thing missing is a case, upgraded power supply, and some of the optional stuff. And this is where it starts getting interesting. For a mid-range machine, we can put an M.2 drive in here. Now, when we go to the performance machine, we can take that M.2 and go to an M.2 NVMe for more performance. But that's as good as it gets right now on that end. And if you've got a case, doesn't matter how old it is, I like Lee & Lee cases. They're aluminum cases, they're lightweight until you start putting all the garbage in them, but they have only USB 2 ports, they're so old. So I have options to get USB 3 ports in those cases. Easy to do. And I've also got a link on the bottom how to get to the Windows 10 ISO. I think that's extremely important, especially people talking about how difficult it is to get their system upgraded. Now I'm going to go into the performance, and this is roughly the specs based on the machine that both Jim Fallon and Bill have built. The big deal here, first of all, RAM, motherboard, and processor, is we've gone to DDR4. The other 2 machines are DDR3, so if you have an old machine, you've got parts you can use, they won't work on this. We've gone to DDR4. But you've got to add a cooler. Cooler is not with that CPU, and this is the cooler that they used. Power supply, video card is in here. Video card is optional. A BD writer, that's optional. The operating system, and if you notice, here's the M.2 NVMe drive. Also a 7200 RPM drive, so you've got your options. Monitor, I don't have a monitor on here yet. Because of the class of the machine this is, most people would probably be looking at a 4K monitor. But how many people own a 4K monitor? There's maybe, let's see, if we look at desktops and laptops, there are 1, 2, 3, 5. There's 5 people that have 4K, no, 6. There's 6 people that have 4K displays here. And again, the Windows 10 ISO. So I'm going to back out of this, and now we're going to go down. Oh, back out one more. Now we'll go to laptop. Now, eventually, there's going to be 3 laptops. But right now, there's only 1 laptop up here. These 13 pages took me 2 weeks to do. I would put stuff up and it would disappear. I'd put stuff up and it'd be in a different place than where I wanted it. I was beginning to have my eyes crossed. I like the program, but it's a different animal than what I'm used to. But anyway, the one we've got listed up here, there are 3 people that have now purchased this particular laptop for a 4K. I also have the specs from Mark's laptop, Mark Crane, who's not here today. He'll be here in a week or 2. And at some point, we're going to demo his laptop, but I want to be able to have a comparison. By the way, he also bought his laptop from Costco. And I'm going to get back to the thing about picking a vendor in just a minute. So I've got a link up, what I consider 5 links that are relevant. From Nick Steeder, here's the link to Costco, right into it. Now, if anybody wants to buy this laptop, if we click on this page, it will not show a price. What you have to do is click on the page, add that item, that element, to your wish list. Once it's on your wish list, you can then select it from the wish list and put it in the cart. And then it'll show you a price. And this is the best place to buy that laptop. If you go buy it anywhere else, it's a couple $100 more. But there's the laptop. There's a link into ASUS about that type. Also a link into ASUS about that particular model, which is different from the one listed at Costco. And if you're interested and need it, the USB-C dock for the ports. And of course, the final link's into Windows. That's still a work in progress. Okay, what I want to share with you about vendors. Yes, Joe?
Question.
Yes, sir. Dwayne?
Of those people who have 4K laptops, are you happy with it? Is it doing whatever you thought it was doing for you? Primarily, I'm talking about the scaling issue.
Nick?
Mike's coming. Thanks, Lou.
In a nutshell, no, because the printing is too small, the icons are too small, we can't get them to stay, so you're continually doing Control Plus to increase the print. I think it's because of the 4K. I don't think it's anything other than that.
You're not able to get the taskbar icons to stay large?
I'm not talking about just the taskbar. I'm talking about all the printing of all the pages of anything, whether it's a newspaper or a document or anything else. The printing is tiny. Ask Joe.
It's always too small.
Yeah, it's very, very small. And it looks like, from what we're looking, it looks like it's pixel-based. And you can't change the size of it.
Interesting.
For instance, if you compared his on his directory opus, to my directory opus.
Yes.
Can you put this up there?
Thanks.
On my directory opus, you can see all these icons very clearly.
Yes.
And you can even read the small print up here very clearly. Well, that's larger than his large print, and I can scale these prints here.
And that scales with Windows.
Yeah, that scales
Within the program?
Within the program.
Interesting.
But these icons we cannot scale within the program, so they're so small that they're virtually unreadable.
Have you all contacted Directory Opus, the company that makes that now, to ask them about that?
Not yet, but they're in Australia, so It's not like you can call them up on the phone.
Oh, I was going to say just an email.
Yeah. But anyway, those are the main things. Is the
It's not their fault.
No, it's not their fault. It's an issue with Windows.
It's their fault in that they haven't changed the program to accommodate the 4K screens on a 15-inch laptop.
It's called poor planning.
And I think this scaling is going to be an issue, and it's going to become more of an issue because we're 4K right now. 8 keys coming down the pike.
Well, my problem, and I'm wrestling with buying a new laptop myself, but
Doesn't change the size.
for those of us who use a lot of freeware programs and other things like that, to realistically expect those people to rewrite their programs to scale right for 4K is probably certainly unrealistic in the short run, and maybe never.
That depends because
But what for?
No,
You know,
that's
the question
true.
is what
That's
for?
true, but the program I'm looking at right here and what you're looking at up there is probably the most expensive file program on the market today. And it's not free.
and it's the best.
It's in Australia. Like I say, it's made out of Australia. And I think this program costs you, like right now, about $90 US if you want to buy it.
Okay, but are they even going to upscale for 4K? Because
We don't know yet. That's to be determined.
You see, I think that's an awareness issue because if you've never used a 4K desktop, you're not aware of it. Remember, folks, it hadn't been too long ago, we were 640 by 480. Then we went to 800 by 600. We thought that was smoking. And then we went to 1024 by 768. Wow.
Yeah, but 4K for your word processor and your directory manager and things like that, big deal. I just question, is it really worth it? Because there doesn't appear to be any workaround, at least in the short run.
You're right. So far, we haven't found a workaround, but I use this program probably more than any other program. This is a very versatile program.
Nick's got some more comments. Robert's coming. Thanks, Dwayne.
I
Yes.
haven't been able to find anybody to tell me an advantage of 4K.
4K is for video.
Movies.
Yeah, I'm talking about right here on this laptop.
No,
It's very much a disadvantage. That's fine for a TV at home, but for a working laptop,
it's
I would not recommend 4K for anybody.
Well, there's 3 people that have one. Andrew, what do you think of the 4K? Let's get you on the mic.
Benny hasn't played with it long enough to know yet. She was hoping that I would gotten it last week, but a week before last, but I didn't.
Pleading the 5th. Has Mimi had a chance to mess with it?
Very little. She hasn't messed with it since I've had it out here.
So she's depending on you to get it all squared away.
It's beginning to look that way.
I hear you. I hear you.
Install the anniversary update of Windows, and so far so good.
So far, so good. Are you, well, this issue we're talking about is getting these icons big enough where you can see them.
I haven't played around with it.
Haven't gotten that far. Well, Jack?
I'm confused, Nick. Does resetting your resolution back to 1080 not solve the problem? If you're not interested in the...
Yeah, it does. That will solve the problem. And
So if you're not interested in the ultra high def, seems like that would be
That would be an easy...
at least a temporary solution.
Well, that's a good point, but that's a temporary solution right now. We're talking about technology that's changing, and there's always growing pains with that. And we have found something that is a big deal. It's going to be addressed. It's a matter of time.
I thought I had been reading about, and maybe I'm mistaken because I don't have the problem and I've just kind of skipped across it, but that you're able, in some cases at least, you're able to go into the program and switch a bit of code around that says I'll automatically rescale or not automatically rescale, and
apparently you're better off if you tell it to say, I don't automatically rescale, so that Microsoft won't try to do it.
Dwayne sent me some information about looking into an application.
Somebody show us how to do that. It looks great, but you got to go in, you got to edit the program and regedit. You got to go in and change the registry.
Yeah,
you
and
got to do it
you
for
gotta
every
do it for each
every
program,
individual
each app, right.
program. You know, maybe you could do it, but I'm not sure I'm interested in doing that on every program on my machine.
Well, in my opinion, 4K on a laptop, unless you're doing some very high-end photographic work, is really a waste of time and money. Go ahead.
Here, here.
Philip Tan's got a
Philip,
comment in back.
I disagree with that because my
Go ahead.
my laptop is only HD 1920 by 1080, and even using Adobe Photoshop CI6, which Adobe is not supporting anymore, it's too small.
Okay, but you're missing my point. You're not running it at 4K.
No, and
My point was 4K on a laptop is not worth the time and money. You've got a 4K machine that you're running at 1080.
no. This is only 1920. My laptop.
1920 by 1080.
Yeah, but 1080 is the vertical.
Right.
Yeah, so you're running a 4K machine, a 3896, whatever it was, at 1080. So you're not running, even though you have the capability of doing it, and if you're not showing it up that way, then you're not using 4K.
No. I don't have a 4K laptop.
Are
mine
you?
Is, mine is only HD. Like I said.
Oh,
even-
then why do you disagree with what I said? I don't
well,
understand.
what I'm saying is, even for photography, it's not worth it. This is even.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
you're agreeing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I hear.
You went around the back door to agree with me. I didn't understand that. But I was thinking that if you're going to get on a pixel by pixel, make pixel changes, you're going to have more effect on a 4K machine doing pixel changes than you are on a 1080. So I'm saying my point again is a 4K laptop is not worth the money. I would not buy one. Sorry about that, Nick, but if I had, until we find a way to come out. Now we can run his at 1024 by, or was it 1920 by 1020 by 1080. We can do that. That's not a problem, and everything will look the same, but it'll be a 1080 machine, basically.
Jim.
I don't want to confuse the issue, but I had that problem with Adobe Bridge on my 4K monitor on the home machine. On the laptop, Bridge worked fine, and you could see the text and all that good stuff. But that 4K, I had a problem, but they fixed it. They messed some other stuff up when they fixed that, but Adobe fixed the problem with the menus.
But you see, that's a work in progress. We're in the midst of a technology where hardware and software are not in the same place. That's happened many times, and that's where we're at right now. Now, going back to the original question, would you want 4K on a laptop that you're going to work with? Right now, no, because the growing pains, once that's solved, it won't be an issue. It's an issue right now. How long will that take? I don't know. Dwayne?
I think what we're saying here is, as Joe says, the only reason a laptop with 4K might make sense would be if you're into high-end photo or video editing, because Photoshop is the most likely company to upgrade their programs to work on a laptop, because those are the people that are using it, and the rest of the people will drag along. Who knows how long it'll take them to do it.
Well, it's something to think about. Now, there's another person up here that has one of these 4K laptops. Am I at liberty to tell who that is? Okay. Lou Warren has also purchased one of these laptops. So because she's going to have one, she'll be able to run the switch, which needs to be at 1080 plus. So I'm going to help Lou to configure hers, and as we work with Lou's to get it where she can read everything,
1080.
I'll be on top of what Nick Streeter needs and what Andrew needs. But without access to a 4K myself personally, I'm like everybody else. I'm a deer in headlights. It's a new animal, and it's going to take time to get acquainted with that. What were you asking? Oh, well, it took longer to get here than we thought it would, which is an interesting point. And I want to bring up this about vendors right quick before I forget about it. Okay, in the past we've talked about vendors, who to buy from. You know, you buy a motherboard, it's in a box. And that box is usually in a shipping box. Have you ever bought a motherboard and had it shipped to you not in a shipping box? I'll repeat that. Have you ever bought a motherboard shipped to you that's not in a shipping box?
It would be used.
Not a new one.
See? I had that happen recently with Amazon, and it's becoming somewhat of a pattern. I called their hand on it. They sent me another one. It's in a shipping box like it should be. There's another item I purchased, and it said specifically on the page, if you want this in another box where the item cannot be seen, it's not a matter of whether the item can be seen or not, it's whether the item arrives intact or not. Because the second item they sent that you can see what was in it, the bottom was out of the box. So I don't know whether I need to contact Amazon and ask them if they need to take up a collection for a box of tape or if they're trying to poor boy it. Because I told them, I said, if you folks keep this up, the day Costco starts selling components, I'm done. I couldn't believe it. To get a motherboard in a box that's supposed to be brand new, and there's a shipping label on that box, but not a shipping box, I could not believe it. There was a time when we got a motherboard in an anti-static bag, and they were in one big box just like OEM hard drives. Then they started putting motherboards in a box. It was a white box. They called it, you know, the white box market. Then they started putting the pretty print on the outside. And then for a while, they put a seal on it so you could know if somebody had opened the box. They've taken that seal off. The only way now when you buy a motherboard from someone like that to know if it's brand new is you've got to look inside and see if the caps are still on and see if all the components are still in there. Because if you get a motherboard from anybody, you don't know if it's brand new. There's some places that I prefer to buy from over others. I like buying a motherboard, even though I have to pay tax. I've got 30 days that I can get rid of it real quick, no questions asked with Amazon. But if they're going to start those kind of shenanigans, I'll go back to buying motherboards from Directron, pay the tax here, because I know I can trust them. But I just want to let y'all be aware of that. If you're buying something on Amazon, look and see if it says anything about a box being optional. Get it. Joe?
Also Fry's. Fry's does the same thing.
Boo.
If I buy a motherboard and decided I'd take it home, plug it in, I decide I don't like it, I put it back in the box, I take it to Fry's, I say, is anything wrong with that board? I said, no, it works, it's just not what I want. They say, okay, they take it back, shrink wrap it again, and put it back on the shelf without testing it.
Brand new, they call it. Wow. That was one of the reasons I didn't like going to Micro Center. They had a bad habit of that. A real bad habit of shrink wrap. And you could tell a factory shrink wrap versus the shrink wrap they did with a heat gun. It wasn't worth the hassle. It's like, as good as a deal I find on Newegg for hard drives, I refuse to buy them there because I've had some repeated problems with those drives. I'll buy an SSD from them, I'll buy a CPU from them, maybe a motherboard, but I will not buy a spinning hard drive from them. They are hard on stuff. When you actually see a physical dent where you can tell a drive has been dropped, not worth it. I want one that's still in a sealed box. And that's another thing. Used to an OEM drive was just an OEM drive in an anti-static bag. Yeah. Now OEM drives are coming with the little cartons on the end in a sealed box. So every drive is in a separate box, sealed from the factory. I like that. With that said, I still think that Directron does the best job of that packaging. Amazon does a good job of that packaging. Newegg, I don't trust them with drives. But I just want to throw that out there. I couldn't believe it, that one of my favorites. Now, something like this we talked about a while ago with Costco. They too have a little bit of a problem with their shipping. They forget to put enough tape on. When Lou's laptop arrived, it came to me because she was out of town. It was a box in a box. When I picked the box up, the bottom of the shipping box was open and loose. And I looked inside, and one corner of the box that the laptop was in was dinged, but when I opened it, the laptop was pristine. So I said I was okay with that. And I'm ready to go to the next step as soon as Lou gives me the word to get it set up and configured for her. But if you buy that from Costco, they've got the best price. And if anybody's interested, Costco now has their own Visa card through Citi. You get a 2-year warranty extension if you buy from Costco. If you put it on the Costco Citi Visa card, they add another 2 years to that warranty on top of the manufacturer's warranty. So just throwing that out there if anybody's interested. So anybody that's going to be building, buying, or upgrading a computer, I'm going to take a look at some email, and I want to share with you what is going to be going on in a couple of weeks from AMD. Somebody give me just a second to find it. There's only about 800 messages here of all this wonderful stuff going down. Jim Johnson's not here today either, is he?
No.
I hope he's getting my email. I've been a little concerned about him. Let's see, 4K, Cinescope, Paralinks, wireless, ARM, titling. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, had a question from Philip Tan. Next week we're going to be doing cloning. Philip, are we still going to clone your wife's computer? Okay. Philip sent me an email that I haven't responded to yet. He's got Windows 7 64 Pro, and he's having trouble getting it to upgrade. There is a upgrade update you need, and I've got a link on BuildOrBuy for it. And I got your name by it. Right there. Thoreau has an article up. The convenience roll-up makes a big difference. What you need to do a search on is that word convenience roll-up. And if we do, you can go straight to the article, just do a search. Convenience roll-up. We're going to Google that. Convenience roll-up 7 Service Pack 1. This will take us to a page that'll take us to another page. And it'll tell us about this update, tells about the known issues. As long as you're not doing anything with virtual machines, you should be okay. But if you can get this update to roll on in, and there's a link at the bottom, I'm just double checking. Yep. There's a link here at the bottom. Let me scroll down. Don't need to read it. How to get it. Prerequisites. The Microsoft Update Catalog. I'll hold down the Control key, click on Microsoft Update Catalog, see if this does what I'm supposed to. There it is. And there's a link to three different downloads. And what you've got is the update for Windows 7, the update for Windows Server, and the third update for Windows 7. Shows you the size based on that knowledge base article. Download what you need, and that should do what you want. The problem you're having getting Windows to update, it just sits there. If you read Thoreau's article, it may take a while. Be sure and set your power settings to not let that computer go to sleep so that it stays awake before you initiate this process. And it may take a while, and it may look like nothing's happening, but eventually it'll go through. And once it goes through, you're in business. Try that, but read the article first. It'll help. Sorry I didn't have a chance to send you the email. I got it up on BuildOrBuy to share with everybody. Okay, so next week we're going to clone that computer. You got the extra hard drive? Good. SSD? Let's get a mic on you. Say that again?
I'm going to clone it to an SSD and then change the SSD as my boot up.
We'll go from a spinning hard drive to an SSD.
Right.
Okay. And you have everything you need, cable and all that kind of stuff, mount, everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we going to use Macrim Reflect?
Yeah.
Perfect. Macrim Reflect free. Bring the computer, keyboard, mouse, whatever you like. We'll have a monitor up here. If you can bring a monitor, do you have an HDMI monitor?
No.
Okay.
Well, actually I do, but it's kind of big.
We'll have a monitor. Don't worry about it. Bring the computer, keyboard, and mouse. We'll be in business. We'll set you up down there right next to Joe, and we'll clone. Okay, Dwayne sent us some information about the new gigabyte bricks. Dwayne, what'd you think of that article? You still thinking about building the bricks?
Well, it was nice to see somebody updating it, but I
True.
just have really lost my enthusiasm. They just seem to be going away from a small, quiet, nice little device to
Noisy.
noisy. It doesn't really seem like anything that's of great interest to me anymore.
Well, I appreciate the information on it. I still like the Intel NUC, and I'm still a fan of it for what it does. I need something small up here, and it can't beat it for what we need. Now, the thing that you sent, Jim, we didn't get a chance to get that up because I think you sent it this morning. About the new AMD CPU on PC World. I didn't have time to find the link on the new Zen. In 2 weeks, I believe it's going to be on the 13th, which would be, on Tuesday in 2 weeks. I'll have a link up to that for those that want to log in and watch that meeting. I would expect they'd probably have a YouTube video, but AMD is going to be doing one of their reseller meetings talking about the new Zen CPU. Now, what's the big deal about a new CPU? What rules? Chipsets rule. So if we've got a new CPU coming, we're going to get a new chipset. If we're going to get a new chipset, that means new motherboards. What socket are we going to have? I don't know. Is it going to be an AM3 Plus or is it going to be an AM4? I've heard talk about an AM4, but I've seen no motherboards on it. Have you heard anything more about it, Jim? Just what you've read?
And I think that's not even the biggest one. I believe that's a mid-range. I want to say 4-core, and there may be a 6-core coming later. I don't remember the whole thing. I just read it and sent it, but I think that's not the fastest one.
Well, that's a new CPU with a new, should be a new chipset coming out. So I'm eager to see when it gets here what it's going to be. Yeah, here it talks about the preview will be streamed at 1 p.m. Pacific time on December the 13th. Oh, and there's a link. You can sign up at AMD's website to be clued in. So if anybody wants, I'll get this information up on BuildOrBuy this weekend, and I'll have Jim Fallon's name behind so you can search on it. And I would encourage, if you're interested, to watch it. Some of the events that we tried to do up here in the past, not everybody watched them like I hoped they would. So instead, I'll tell you about them on the flip side. Okay, we got any more news? There's a gadget gift guide. How many of you took advantage of some of the deals over the holidays? Anybody? The deals. Oh, the deals. There were some wonderful deals. What'd you buy? You bought a Fitbit. Okay, and you were asking a while ago about how to get that configured. Did you talk to Joe about that, your Fitbit? Talk to Joe and DeLu, okay. Again, I want to remind everybody, before the meeting and after the meeting, I am busy trying to get set up and packed up, so I really appreciate y'all letting me stay focused on that. So your Fitbit, did you buy it yourself, or was it to me, from me? Yeah, but you bought it. Okay, that was to me, from me. You did it for yourself. There you go. So now that you know how to figure it, you'll do that when you get home. Yes, sir.
Hey, Gil, I got a Comcast question.
Yes, sir.
My TV, it gets interrupted every now and then, and it's usually like with a football game or something when there's an important play, or in the evenings between. It's just sporadic, though. I've called them, and you have any ideas what's wrong? It just seems like somebody's purposely doing it, like they want you to upgrade maybe or something.
Seems like somebody's monkeying with it. That's one of the reasons I don't like Comcast for TV.
I think it's Comcast that's monkeying with it.
What do you mean what kind of interruptions are we talking about?
Mostly audio. Video's usually fine. Like somebody's saying something and it'll get interrupted right in the middle of what they've said, or
it just cuts out.
Or like a replay on a football game.
Does it kick out for a few seconds, or just for like a second and it's gone?
Oh, maybe 2 or 3 seconds.
What kind of TV is it? What manufacturer?
Man, I don't recall.
I had that problem with mine, and it was the Samsung, and they had me upgrade update the BIOS in it.
The firmware.
Yeah.
Really? I
Yeah.
think it is a Samsung.
Okay, try upgrading the firmware, because you can do that yourself. It's all on the TV.
Really?
Yeah, and see if that helps any.
Do you have your TV hardwired to the internet?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay,
So did I.
It should auto-update, but if it's not, go in and check it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try that.
And if you can't get it to upgrade or update itself, then call Samsung, because you might have a problem that they have to take care of.
How do you upgrade it? I don't even know how to do that.
Well, it's on mine. I got a set of tools.
Yeah.
Okay, I go up there and hit tools, and in that tool thing is check about upgrade your BIOS or upgrade your software.
Upgrade your
I've
firmware.
seen that. I've
Okay,
seen that.
that's what you want to do. Upgrade your firmware,
That's probably what it needs.
and let us know if that worked.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
You have to remember also, this stuff that these companies get, even though we're connected, a lot of those connections they get are beamed to them through a satellite. So sometimes you get the pixelization. I used to get that real bad.
Yeah, this is just a little different, though. I think it's more probably an upgrade.
Yeah, when that happened to me, first thing I thought it was my sound bar going out on me. So I disconnected the sound bar and went back to straight TV audio, and within 10 minutes, it's happening again. So I said, okay, it's not my sound bar. I'm glad about that. But the TV.
I think that's it.
So if the firmware will solve it, that'll be good. I like Comcast for internet. I don't like Comcast for TV. I prefer UVerse for TV. But that's just me. When that Comcast went out a couple of years ago, it was out for 2 or 3 days. Let's get a mic up here on the Nick Streeter. Thanks, Robert. Comcast for internet. Right now, my deal was supposed to be $97. It went up to $111, and that's why I'm going to call them customer retention and change it.
Anything other than internet?
Yes.
Comcast?
At the time, the package I had to take on was the basic adapter, and then they made me add the streaming. So I've got one of their boxes that's been sitting on the floor for over a year. I'm getting ready to get them to take that off because, a long story short, I said I don't want it. They said, well, it's part of the package. I said, fine. I'd take it back. They'd send me another one. I said, I don't want this. Okay, we'll send it back to us. And they had somebody from, what do they call that, collections? Well, you've got a box here that, I'm like, yeah, well, we're going to come get it. I said, well, I don't want this thing.
Okay, for information, I pay $52.34 a month for only Comcast internet, nothing else.
What's your bandwidth?
I don't know.
Oh, well, at the time when I signed up for it, it was for a 100 megabit connection. And then after
I'm sure mine's not that, maybe 25.
64, and I think I get close to 50.
close to 50.
Yeah, I think you got 50 or 60. Yeah.
Well, I had 100 megabit until last night after the 45-minute upgrade, and when it came back up, it was 75 megabit, and I said, nope, not acceptable. So then when I found the deal to go up to 150 megabit for like $60, $59 and some change,
I'd like to see that.
well, I need to find it. I've got it. It's here somewhere.
It sounds like a commercial connection.
No, because I did a comparison. I looked at Comcast Business, and Comcast Business is not what any of us want. This was Comcast Residential. The Comcast Business deal was expensive. Now, Comcast Business up here at Fairhaven makes sense for what they're doing, but for what we'd be doing as individuals at home, I don't think so. I've got the deal, but it's in this email, but like I said, I'm looking at nearly 800 messages. I don't know how far back it is. It would have been probably, let's see, today's the 30th, the 29th. It ought to be down here in the bottom based on time. It should have been around 9 or 10 o'clock. And, oh, here it is. Xfinity, all offers. See, I'm just not used to that term Xfinity. Comcast is Comcast. The URL is really easy and simple to know. It's xfinity.com/learn/offers.
There you go. Right, you just passed it.
Yeah, hang on a second. Your opinion matters. No, don't bother me.
Right there. Oh, it's 25
No,
megabytes.
there's a 25, there's a 100, there's a 150. They've taken it off.
Yeah, they upgraded everything over the past week or so. So,
Okay, they've changed it. They changed the zip code. No, it's not going to give me the address. It's picking up 77001. There was a deal, and it was $60 for 150 megabit. And up here, I'm picking up 77001, and that's showing $60, and it was 10 channels. 10 channels that I'd never even heard of. Let me view channels and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Wow, it doesn't even show the 10 channels. There was one deal with 10 channels. I remember that specifically.
10 channels of what?
Well, it was 10 TV channels I'd never heard of. It was garbage.
Oh,
It wasn't anything you'd know. Because all I was interested in was internet.
so when I talk to them on negotiating service and prices,
Yes.
tell me how many channels they got, and the first thing I say is, how many are in English? Well, I don't know. So, well, that's kind of a useless number then, isn't it? that takes the steam out of their argument.
Here it is. Here it is. Okay, what I did on the far left side is I had just internet. TV was on there. I'm only interested in internet. So I said just internet, and here is 150 megabit for $50. I thought it was 60. Now, this doesn't show any TV. Last night, the one I saw had 10 channels on it. This is Performance 25 Plus, a speed upgrade to Blast Pro. I currently have Blast. And a Blast, I believe, was 50 megabit. They'd upgraded to 100. So what I'm interested in is this deal right here for 150 megabit for $50. And that'll cut my bill in half. That's what I'm going to go for. I don't care anything about their TV. But even if I keep the little media adapter, I'm just as well off with an antenna. I only did it to show I could do it. You know what I'm saying?
You talking about MDA, the digital?
No,
DTA?
not that little bitty digital adapter they gave you.
DTA. They don't charge for that.
Well, what'd you say?
The DTA, digital
Yes.
Transmission.
Yeah, they do.
$2.50.
It went up to $5
Oh, it went $5.
this
Okay.
past week.
I just saw the bill. I got my bill yesterday, and it's still zero.
If you get a new one, they're charging for them.
Ah,
No, I didn't get a new one. I've had
Yeah, mine for a
three
couple years.
since Christ was a corporal.
yeah.
And we were talking, and the bill went up, and I said, explain what went up. And she said, well, these adapters you have, 3 of them, they were $2.99, now they're $4.99.
He said, I don't need that.
And when I first got them, they were free.
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
free.
Yeah, well, they're not free anymore, not in my house.
Interesting. Well, anyway, that's the deal I'm interested in. That's what I'm going for. But the deal I saw was $60. It was 150 megabit, and the TV was 10 channels. Let me go back up here and look. Internet and TV. See if it shows it. 100 megabit to 200 megabit. 140 channels. I don't want 140 channels. So if we're at the internet, and last night they were trying to tell me on home security. I said, had a real nice young lady on the phone. I said, dear, I said, you can't beat the security I've got. She said, oh, what do you have? I said, a Smith & Wesson 3000. I said, she said, what's that? I said, a 12-gauge shotgun. I said, it's never failed me. Well, you know, my neighbors are really good. They know if there's a problem, come see Gil, because they see me out anywhere from 1 to 3 times a day. And I'm out shooting squirrels. I loved them until they started chewing on the roof. Then I said, those rats with furry tails got to go. So 150 megabit for $50, that's where I'm going for. And I'm going to get rid of that other junk I've got on there. I love TV on Uverse. It's great. But like I said, when Comcast went down, I guess about 2 or 3 years ago, and they were down for about 2 or 3 days, I said, I'm done with that. And I've been very pleased. And every time Uverse goes down, By the time I can go to the bathroom and come back, it's usually back up. The worst I've ever had to do is reset the box at the TV and to go up and reset the cable modem device. That's the worst I've ever had to do. I've never had to call them. With Comcast, if you got a problem and you call, forget it. Because if there's a problem, everybody else is calling, and you will not get through and talk to anybody. Now, that's one of the nice things about Comcast Business. They're usually on top of things. But if you compare these offers, and this is at xfinity.com/learn/offers. These offers you will not see if you log into your account. And I had to really dig to find that URL. So, xfinity.com/learn/offers, plural. And if you want, I'll email it to you so you don't have to.
Please do.
Be glad to. I'm going to have to put the BuildOrBuy email database up here on this machine, so when someone says, I'll just immediately do it. Won't have to remember it, but this is good to know. I like to know what's available. We need to know our options. That's what BuildOrBuy is about, options. Instead of someone trying to sell us something. The first guy I talked to was in sales. Then he sent me to a lady in, what they call it, security. And she said, oh, I know what you want. You need customer retention. I thought, I've heard that name somewhere before. Both of them were really pleasant. But anyway.
But stupid.
Well, they like to play us for stupid, so I can play that game. Back in 2009 when I was on steroids, I was a bumbling idiot, so I think I'm doing pretty good right now as long as I stay focused. So back to the deals. Did anybody else take advantage of any of the deals? Nobody? I mean, there was deals from Newegg. You know, when I can buy Malwarebytes for $20 for 3 machines for a year, I'm in. They run that thing where it's like, what, 40 or 70% off? Or Kaspersky for $20 for 3 computers for a year, I'm in. JB.
Okay, this weekend I was doing some shopping at Micro Center,
Yes, sir.
and on their BuildOrBuy, build your own machine department in the back of the store,
Yes.
they have the prices up on all their various motherboards and processors, plus they had a $40 off if you bought a processor and a motherboard, or $30 off if it was Intel,
Did you
$40 if it's AMD.
Did you get one?
Nope, I got a Nook for a friend of mine who wants one just for email and web browsing. Got a Celeron Nook for $119.
And that was at Micro Center?
Micro Center.
But you got to walk in to do it. You got to walk in the store. They won't do it mail order.
Yeah, but the point is, their prices they had on their thing, and they had comparison prices of what they were on Newegg. And Newegg was high enough so that pay the tax there and you're still ahead.
But you got to walk in the store. Micro Center is pretty smart to do a bundle deal like that. It's funny you mention that. I saw that before the deals. And Mom and I talked about it, but because it's difficult for Mom to get in places, it's easier for us to have something sent to us. So I come real close to driving over there, but I didn't have time. I was trying to get the website updated and get stuff ready for today.
Well, it's a long way for you, plus it's a horrible place to get in their parking lot.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But for an incentive, I mean, it's an option. Something to think about.
Yeah,
Dwayne, you looking for a mic? Where's the other mic at?
I built the Nook this morning in 5 minutes.
You built a Nook? Put the mic up to your mouth so we can hear you.
All you do is plug in the memory stick and slide the hard drive in the thing,
And you're in business.
screws back. The worst part of it was loosening the screws to take the 4 feet off so you could get inside the thing.
And not losing them. Yeah, because if you lose that screw, they're pretty proud of them. So which Intel NUC did you build?
It was their Celeron,
The Celeron. Ooh.
which is slow, but for the machine.
Put the mic up where we can hear
For
you.
what he was going to use the machine for, it's adequate.
Did what he wanted. Thanks for sharing that. JB, would you send me the specs on that laptop you bought? Because that was an inexpensive laptop. Thanks, Philip. See you next week.
Yeah. It's on Fry's weekly specials I can get for you.
That would help. I appreciate it because I like to get it up to share with everybody else. What were you going to tell us, Dwayne?
I was just going to comment on that Micro Center special. When I built my last desktop, you know, I went shopping everywhere, Newegg and all, and didn't really discover until I walked into Micro Center there. You know, that's usually at least a $30 or $40 discount when you buy the motherboard and the CPU combined, and I ended up buying there because it was better than any other place I could find.
Blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it was never in their advertisements or anything. You just got to walk in and
Walk in and check it
and
out.
Yeah.
If that's an option too, that's something to think about. Like I said, it's difficult for Mom and I because she's got to have some place to sit.
Look at yourself.
UPSs were on sale, hardware, software. Anybody else buy anything that they want to share? Nobody? Well, some of the software I saw, there's some stuff that I'm sure we'll be talking about some more in the future as we go through all this. Anything else that's going on? Okay, we talked about the new CPUs coming out. Oh, anybody trying to stream 4K? Right now, according to Netflix, they're going to be streaming 4K, but it requires Windows 10 and only if you have an Intel Kaby Lake CPU. So that's going to be interesting, how well that goes along. And Milt sent us a thing about your license keys for your software. You know, Joe did a presentation on that one time, said if you're changing or upgrading your computer, to be sure and keep all those licenses in one place in the database. This was an article that Milt had from Kim Commando. I just cut to the chase and put the link up to License Crawler. I like to keep it simple. Now, we talked about laptops. If you weren't going to buy a 4K laptop, and this relates back to Costco. Anybody been to Costco lately? Costco sells a lot of stuff on their website, but it's different what they have in the store. For example, this 4K laptop, there is no 4K laptops in the store. There's no 4K monitors in the store, but they have some really interesting laptops. If I were going to go buy a new laptop, even with the problems you're having, Nick, that's the laptop I'd buy. If I didn't buy that laptop, there is another laptop at Costco that Asus makes. It's the Asus ROG, Republic of Gamers. It's not 4K, it's 1080. It's close to the same price, but it's a little bit less. Close to the same price, but a little bit less in performance. I don't know what the specs are to look it up right quick, but that was an impressive laptop. If I were looking, I would still look at Asus. For example, every time you've called Asus, you've had, yeah, that's right there is a lot. And if you ever have to have someone intervene for you, that service from Costco, you call them and put it on a conference call with Asus, and they'll intercede for you. That's golden. Thanks, Robert. Somebody want to manage these? Since Robert's going to have to leave, it would help. We still got a few minutes. Okay, let's talk about Asus, the Republic of Gamers. Now, this brings me to another option. We talked about liquid cooling a while ago. Now, this link is curious. This is an article on Hexus. Thank you, Lou. They're off. So let me turn them on, and I'll turn that one on. They're both on. Thank you. Can you imagine, and I got to bring this up to look at the specs. Asus ROG launches the GX 800 liquid-cooled gaming laptop. Now, who in their right mind, look at this little beast. This is a laptop with this thing to be liquid-cooled, and look at the specs. Machine was built for 4K. I know gaming. Gaming is usually what they call it when we're talking about high-end. An updated GX 700. They call it the GX 800. It's DDR4 memory. But look at that cooler on that rascal. How do you carry something like that? Can you imagine a case? It's got storage is catered for by 3. Let me magnify this so we can read it. 3 M.2 NVMe SSDs in RAID 0. Now keep in mind, some of these tools we use, we have a perspective on how we see things. When you've got someone like Tom Tyner who can't see the screen well, tools like this that we use to bump up something that's in such a high resolution, we needed to make it easier to read. These are ADA tools, but these ADA tools are becoming more of a mainstream item as we get into 4K. And this is just one tool that's built into Windows. I still like the other tool that we've talked about in the past from Sys Internals. But anyway, back to this laptop. 3 M.2 NVMe's. Now, if you were editing video, that would be a machine to edit video with. That would be wicked. But I don't know how you carry the rascal. I guess on a dolly. I mean, look at that. Look at that cooler. That's not a laptop. Do what? Well, I don't know if it plugs in or if it's hardwired. I would be afraid to unplug it if that's liquid cooled.
It looks like it would be plug-in.
Well, it looks like it needs wings. I mean, it's just that. Yeah. Fold out the solar panels. But that is a beast. Again, you know, we're looking at the technology. They're showing a case. They haven't published pricing yet. Yeah, come back soon. This is one of those things, if you got to ask how much, kind of like going to Neiman Marcus, you know what I mean? But I had to share that with you because I thought it was most curious. And of course, it's got a Thunderbolt 3 interface, so you've got the USB 3.1C. But again, it's the technology, just looking at the technology. And as always, the one-upsmanship. NVIDIA's coming out with some new video cards. AMD's going to come out with some new chipsets for new video cards. There's an issue on InfoWorld about some patches. A Red Shark, some stuff about the DJI dominating the drone market. Light panels. Oh, and a question Robert Collier had that I wish he'd have been here for. He was asking about mixing RAM and speed, and all I did was put up the information according to what Gigabyte said. Even though a lot of us have done it, don't. Buyer be aware. It's recommended that memory of the same capacity, brand, speed, and chips be used and installed in the same colored sockets. For whatever reason, he wanted to use, do you remember that message, Joe? Was it like 12 gigs of RAM in a machine? Something odd.
Yeah.
A couple of 4s and a couple of 2s, or a couple of 8s and a couple of 4s.
Well, yeah, he wanted to mix speeds was the thing.
Yeah. And of course, it'll run at the lowest common denominator. But the question is, will it run without blue screen of death?
I think it will. It'll just throttle down.
Yeah. But I gave him what they said. You know, try it. If it works for you, great. If not, I also put up some information from Western Digital. Anybody ever have to, for example, Philip's getting ready to upgrade a machine, Philip 10. You're going from a spinning hard drive to an SSD. Have you ever wondered what brand of drive is in that machine? Do you know?
I don't know, it's a Dell.
Oh, it's a Dell. Okay. Well, there's ways to figure out what brand the drive is. When the machine boots, you can look into BIOS and it'll tell you there's software you can run. But beyond that, say you've got a machine, you've got a hard drive in there, you want to know if there's not necessarily a firmware update. Sometimes that happens. But if you want to know the manufacture date. Okay, well, I like to run the BellaArc Advisor report. It tells me the brand. It also gives me the serial number. And I can take that serial number and plug it in to, like, say, if it's a Western Digital, on Western Digital's site, and I've got a link up here to that, and it will look at that drive and tell me the manufacture date and tell me how much warranty is left. So if I were in the position like Philip was at, and I was changing drives, and I came upon this recently, had some audio that I shared with you guys a couple of weeks ago that I need to get off, that have been archived from a long time ago. So I'm in the process of moving drives around to get the newest drives on this new machine I'm putting together. So I wasn't real sure the manufacture dates. So I started putting serial numbers in there to find out, ooh, this drive's expired, or ooh, this drive's good until 2022, to move those drives around to get on the most current, newest drive. So I put this tool up, and I also have some information about OEM versus retail. But right here, Western Digital warranty check for end users. The first link you may find will give you nothing but grief and not give you the information you want. But the second link you find, well, that's not the link I wanted. Warranty check. I clicked on the wrong link right here. This is what you want. That's the page. Now, if you're pulling the numbers out of BuildOrBuy, the first 3 digits do not put in there because it'll come back with an error and said that's not real. The first 3 digits are WD dash. Do not put in the WD or the dash. Everything past that is what you put in here. I figured that out the hard way. And there's another page that may come up before this one that has a CAPTCHA on the bottom. Don't mess with it. This one doesn't have a CAPTCHA. That CAPTCHA is annoying because it'll come up with the same error after you've gone 2 or 3 times trying to get the CAPTCHA right. This is the one to use. So I put this information up there for a reason. If you want to check, first of all, figure out what brand drive you've got. Run BuildOrBuy Advisor will tell you. And if you need your serial number, BuildOrBuy also tells you that. You don't have to download that software from the manufacturer to tell you what brand it is. It will, what the serial number is. It will, but there's no way to extract it. It's in text that you cannot cut and paste to pull it out. It's in BuildOrBuy so that you can cut it and paste and put it in that window I just showed you. To me, that's helpful. Now, we've got a little information up here about the Google Chromecast, number 27 and 28. What router settings do I need to set up Chromecast, if anybody else wants that, and also the information about Google Chromecast itself. I'm glad it worked out we could do that today. Can you guys imagine gigabit? We've talked about a lot of different ways to do it. It looks like as you drive in coming from the west, it looks like they're laying fiber on the south side of I-10 right now. Probably AT&T. Google's cut back. Google was going to go wireless. At one point, I heard they were going to try to string their wireless devices on AT&T poles, and there's been an issue with that. Well, can you imagine doing wireless with, let's see, who was that? SpaceX? Number 31, DSL reports. SpaceX unveils plans for gigabit broadband by satellite. Now, that's wicked. Broadband satellite. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Time will tell. Now, Clifford Carley had asked a couple of weeks ago, where's Clifford? Is he? So there you are. Okay, Clifford, you had asked at one time about the 5K player, how to airplay, stream, download, and play with video music, how to play a DVD in the 5K player.
Actually, my question was more specific than that. What you sent me to is something that I went to first off to try and solve my problem. The problem isn't how do you play the DVD. The problem is how do you loop, how do you replay it, how do you make it automatically replay.
Did you contact them?
I haven't contacted them. I looked at all the websites I could look at, and you know, I've played DVDs with a bunch of different players, and you can either find somewhere in it something that says loop,
right,
that you can set to loop, or something that says replay,
right,
and you can set it to do it. But I can't find anything like that anywhere on the 5K player.
I couldn't either.
And I couldn't find it on the website you sent me, and a couple other websites I checked as well, including some sites that were supposedly answering that question.
What I would do is contact them and ask them, because that may be, again, one of those things they hadn't thought about.
Right. But it seems to me that seems a bit weird because it's, you know, it's something that's a fairly simple thing that you're going to want to do, especially if you're in a commercial situation where you want to keep replaying the same DVD over.
Well, you know, it's funny you mention a commercial situation because it's like the media player using VLC. VLC has just added the ability to play 360-degree videos. There are some things that I love about VLC, but there's some things with VLC that will not do in a commercial situation. For example, you know, like having to run video and audio through SDI. When we capture this video to our SSD recorder, we have SDI audio. So we have the ability for up to 16 different tracks, 8 if you call it stereo. If you play that file back in VLC, it will play back, but all you'll hear are the first 2 tracks. it will not play the rest of them. If I use another program like Switch, it will, but Switch only likes an MOV file. And I'm in the process of talking to Switch to figure out why they don't like an MP4 when they claim they do. I've got to send them a clip. Because what seems easy for us, because we've been doing it one way for so long with one application, you think, well, this ought to be easy. If they've never thought of it until someone like you or me says, hey, why can't you do this? It may be like an aha moment for them. And I think I look at that as the same way I look at this 4K thing. If you've never had a 4K monitor, you're not aware of this problem. So I'm curious, if you're going to contact him, if you don't, I will, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
I'll try and email him.
Okay.
While
If
I've got the mic, I've got something extremely useless.
Always.
BBC America has been airing Star Trek for some time now, and recently they started airing Star Trek Classic. And I had known for some time that the original Classic had been upgraded to DVD or transformed to DVD. The original episodes were shot in 35 millimeter film, so they've got a lot to work with to produce some really good pictures. And I had heard, and I confirmed this with the BBC thing this weekend, that amongst the problems that you have when you try to do something like that is that it's very easy to make out the face of William Shatner's stunt double.
Interesting.
And also, they actually went, I don't know about the regular transformations, but BBC, maybe it was just BBC America, took it a step further on some of the space scenes and replaced the cheesy planets that they had in the original series with modern CG, modern computer-generated graphics that makes the planets look like planets. And in one episode called Galileo 7, where at the end of it Spock releases the fuel to make the Galileo visible to the Enterprise, which was speeding away slowly from the planet that they were orbiting. In the original, it's a greenish blob, the planet is, and you have a bright red, orange stripe that goes across it to indicate where the shuttle is going across to be visualized by the Enterprise. In the updated version, the planet looks like a planet, and the little flare that is produced by the this thing looks like a tiny little white line across the screen, making it look much more realistic.
So when will this be released?
I presume you can get it now from BBC America because
BBC.
they've been airing it. Yeah, contact them and you can probably get it. But
Interesting.
The early releases of these things have been out for quite some time, for years actually.
But this is a new release strictly from BBC.
I'm thinking it's a new release from BBC America. You can probably contact them. And one more thing. In the episode called Shore Leave, which was an odd episode to produce because whenever they went to shoot it, they realized that it wasn't produced, it wasn't written very well, so they effectively improvised the entire episode when they were shooting it. And at one point, there is a tiger that is threatening some of the principals.
Yes.
And in the original, you see a tiger threatening the originals. In this one, you see the exact same scene upgraded, which means you can see clearly the chain around the tiger's neck.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, BBC. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when Robert Collier was asking about taking Windows 7? It was Windows 7 64-bit Ultimate, and he wanted to put that on a USB stick. And I had run that program at home and it worked, and I did it up here 3 times and it would not work. There's a file that has to be put in the directory of that program to make it work. I wish Robert was here. I was going to share with him and ask him. I sent this to him if it worked. If you go to this link, I've got it up here, number 37, Robert Collier, kylebaker.com. Create a bootable Windows 7 64, install a flash drive from a 32-bit Windows. Now, I'm using a 64-bit version of Windows, and I kept getting that error. When I ran this program that he said download from his site out of Dropbox, it works. It worked at home. It didn't work. I got home, it didn't work again. But when I put this file where he said to put it, it worked. And I believe it was called BootSec. So if I go to the link, if anybody ever needs to do this, and somebody will, there's the tool, and there's a 32-bit BootSec. You can download the file. It's in Dropbox. Pull it from him. Otherwise, you try to get it from Microsoft, and you're going to have a dog and pony show to go through. So I want to share that with you. Now, how many people are still running Windows 764 besides Philip? Anybody? Remember, next week we're going to clone and hopefully do more than that. As Joe says, clone, backup, or copy. Too easy not to. And something else we may try to talk a little bit about, because I know that JB had asked about it. If you go to the Start control panel, and if we look at the, I believe it was Restore, Recovery. If you go to Recovery and create a recovery drive, JB had asked about that, and I don't think I understood at the time exactly what you were asking. If we have some time next week, I'd like to talk about that as well. Good idea, JB? Good idea, okay. And remember, JB, you're going to send me the specs on that laptop you've got. Later. Oh, I got one here for you. You can watch this at home. Milt sent us some information about a computer class for beginners. Now, the computer class information that Mel was going to share with us, since we're kind of out of time, I'm going to ask Mel if you'll share that with us next week about how to log in and get those classes. But I would encourage everyone to log into this YouTube video, computer class for beginners. It's most educational, and I want to thank Milt for sending that. You got to see it to appreciate it. It gives very detailed information on the proper new usage of how to use a mouse if you've never used one before. You'll get a chuckle out of it. I put a link up on Comcast Business for our speed test. I'll do another one showing what our new speed is. Historically, it shows where we've been. Remember when we first came here 2 years ago, Fairhaven had a 2 megabit connection. It was terrible. We got that upgraded to Comcast Business, and now we got Comcast Business upgraded again so that we can stream at 1080. So we've done a lot in 2 years. Now, the information that Mel's going to share with us next week, I also got from Dwayne, and here's a link that'll take you straight into the Houston Public Library if you want to see those Linda courses. And right now that is number 42. And that's the way to get those classes for free. But Mel's going to share with us next week about that. Now, new topic. Used to, we always heard about who had the most reliable hard drives. We all have our own opinion of what drive we prefer over another. The latest information is from Backblaze, hard drive stats for Q3 2016, and Digital Trends is how I found out about it. Seagate 8 terabyte drives. The Seagate 8 terabyte drives are among the most reliable, according to a new report. So if you're interested in reliability, you can also log into Backblaze, read their blog, and sign up for the information. They'll send it to you. As a data center for someone that uses a lot of drives, I found it most interesting. Now, how many of us are going to use a drive to the point where we're going to tear one up like they did because they run them 24/7? That's not the point. The point is who's got the most reliable drive. And I've got another link into Backblaze that's a history of drives. So from a historical point, I think that's kind of fascinating. So that's where we stand. Anybody got any questions?
Nope.
Nobody? Folks, I want to thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate your support. And we look forward to seeing you next week at BuildOrBuy. Y'all have a great day.